Welcome everyone to this new cert-manager bi-weekly meeting. Today is September the 21st, and we have two topics on the agenda. First topic is about issuer library, and the question is, are we ready to migrate more issuers to issuer library? I think right now we have some closed source Venafi issuers that are using it, but we also got some interest from, I think, all the people who are starting to develop an issuer and are interested in like a quick way to do that. My question is more about like, is it time to start migrating existing issuers to this? I have some PRs that are open to that really do this already. But yeah, I guess the main challenge would be that we would like to maybe change the APIs still a bit in the future, which isn't that much of a problem if these issuers are issues that we ourselves maintain, so we can just fix the API changes. But it is something that I would like to kind of bring up and see what your opinions are on this.
Sorry, go on, Ash.
I'm not sure I have anything particularly intelligent to say on this, to be fair. I think it's well worth us trying it, and I'm open to that. I think I don't really see a problem with it, especially, as you say, when it's something we control, the API changes are much less breaking. I'm relaxed about it.
All right, cool. What about the sample external issuer? Do we also think it would be okay to move that to the new issuer library, or do we wait? Because we have plans to improve the API still, so we know that there will be breaking change in the future. But yeah, would it be okay to already move that sample external issuer to this new framework? What do you think?
That's a tricky one. I think like at the end of the day, sample external issuer is the way that we still recommend people do this stuff. Maybe the smaller first change is to update the README on sample external issuer and tell people about issuer-lib there. Maybe change the documentation to point people towards issuer-lib. I think my assumption had been that actually the sample external issuer would just be deprecated and would have a massive warning on it saying, like, this is the old way of doing it, go use issuer-lib, rather than us updating that repo specifically, because people fork that and use it as an upstream, right, and or could have done in the past, like for creating issuers.
Yes. Well, there is an example of an issuer in the issuer library repository. So you have already an example, kind of like the sample external issuer. But I quite like that with sample external issuer, you can just clone the repository and then kind of start building on top of that. And you don't have to think about like figuring out how to configure these make files and so on.
Yeah.
So it would be good to have such a project, I think, too, for issuer library. But maybe we call it something else, or maybe we do like version 2 of the sample external issuer, I don't know. Or
my first issuer.
Sample external issuer issuer-lib. Just a nice simple name.
yeah, but that's good feedback. Yeah, maybe we should create a new one and then deprecate the old one. All right. Then the next topic is something we have kind of discussed briefly in some other meetings, but I thought it would be good to kind of talk about this shortly here too. And it's basically the structure of the website, and are there any things that we can improve to make the website more readable, basically. Peter, maybe it's also a good thing that you're here. I think it would be great to have your opinion on this. Me personally, I have some ideas on how to improve the website, but maybe it would be great to start with you and just tell us your general feeling about the website. And do you think it's good? Can it be improved? What do you think are the main pain points?
Well, I'd probably start by saying I think actually there's a lot of good content in there, a lot of still really relevant content. If I had one problem, it's sometimes in the navigation I can't quite remember where to go to find the thing, or the thing is not maybe in the section that I thought it might be. So possibly so improving structure maybe kind of, but that leads to the question of what should the structure be. I do like the section that we have around tutorials. I like that they're not they're official docs, but they're not this is how you do thing doc. It's kind of like this is an end-to-end sort of like walkthrough. It's not necessarily official, like, you know, it's not officially how you configure an issuer. Go and look here for how you do that. Like, that's a separate concern. But I do think we're maybe getting to the point where there's quite a few of them. So possibly some structure around the tutorials of I'm not quite sure what the categories should be. Just because it's starting to get I think you go on the tutorials page, it's like quite a long list of things and they're not really in any order. I think it just adds them in the order they're added to the manifest file. So maybe adding them under some different headings or something. I'm not quite sure what those should be. Yeah, I don't think it needs massive overhaul, but yeah.
So this is the tutorial section.
Yeah. So if you click on introduction, for example, just sort of, I suppose it does have sections, some external, some internal. But external, I guess, is referencing other documentation from across the web, right?
But I wonder, for example, like to me, backup and restore resources and syncing secrets across namespaces are quite different from all the other tutorials. They're like things that you want to do in like when you're using cert-manager, basically, right? It's less about like how to configure cert-manager itself.
Yes, I'd agree. Yeah, because actually a lot of the other ones are how to secure thing with said certificate provider, Zero SSL, GK, or like, you know, here's AKS, here's GKE, here's Ingress Nginx with thing. Yeah, maybe that's like maybe there's like a certificate section or issuer product integration section, then like a day 2 cert manager operations. Maybe it's not day 2, that's maybe just cert manager operations, backup and restore. Day 2 is a bit buzzwordy, maybe.
It feels a bit like this is there's like tags that apply here, right? Like if you're imagining like a blog that had these published, you'd have like a GKE tag, and you can click on that, and it'll show you all tutorials relating to GKE. That's maybe a bit too front-endy for us to realistically do in the near term, but like it feels a bit like that. Like that could be the entry point to tutorials, like having a list of tags that are available, and then you pick which ones are interesting to you.
Yeah, I mean, right now there's probably only one that applies to Google Cloud. So
Sure, but I guess there's you can see Acme for the two DNS and HTTP validation ones at least.
oh yeah,
Ingress, like there's a few that mention Ingress, like Let's Encrypt would be a tag. Like we can come up with a few.
oh yeah. Maybe here on this page we could like have a table instead of this list, and the table would then kind of say what technologies are used. It's a couple of columns, so you can quickly see, kind of select, okay, I want to use this exact tutorial, maybe I want to combine these 3 tutorials, that kind of stuff.
That makes sense to me. I think what I would say on this generally is that this, similar to what I said before, is that I'm very relaxed about it. Like, I think we should experiment and like try new things. The only concern I have really with that is I think it's quite damaging to the site's search rankings and to users generally if we break links. So as long as we're careful not to break links, I'm very easy with whatever we do. If we have redirects in place, it really doesn't matter that much. Not that we necessarily need to break any links to achieve this in the first place. It might just be reordering, but that's my only real concern with when we talk about things like restructuring, really.
Okay. And then maybe something additional to the tutorial section is we renamed these sections configuring issuers and requesting certificates. So this, I think, was called configuration or something like that, and this was usage. So this has been renamed, Peter. I hope that this already helps you a bit and makes it a bit more obvious where you can find things. One thing that is still a work in progress is, I think, this list of items that's under the requesting certificates section. For example, here there's one about like policy. I think policy should be moved out, and then there's one about Prometheus metrics, which I think should also be moved out. For me, it feels like Prometheus metrics is very similar to backup and restoring resources and syncing secrets across namespace. That's kind of the same. I think that's kind of the same category of tutorials or things. It's kind of explaining how to use it in a larger environment.
Like operationalizing or production readiness or something like that.
And then I was also thinking for policy. So right now, this is just an empty page. It basically refers to the projects section here. And that's another thing. I would like to remove the projects section in the future. Just have all these pages that are in projects and the other categories. So you don't go to project, instead you want to solve a problem and then you find out, oh, actually I have to use this project for that. So kind of turns around. But basically what I would like to do is have this policy thing and like a separate top level item that's called policy. And then I think, Peter, your tutorial about defaulting policies could also fit in there. So you'd have like approving policies and defaulting policies, and that would be just a top level item called policies.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good to me. I don't know. Yeah, I agree, but I also quite like having the projects tab to see like here are all the. Maybe it doesn't need to be a tab though. Maybe it just needs to be somewhere. It's like, hey, cert-manager is all of these projects, not just cert-manager. But maybe that's I don't know.
So
Maybe
it's
that's
like a new like heading at the top, right at the top of the page. We have like project documentation. There's like a sub-projects thing you could imagine there. I guess it wouldn't be project, but like sub-project is confusing when we have project there already. But you know what I mean, right? You can almost imagine a section there dedicated to sub-projects. But I do like that we have one for that, and like you can see the different things we have. I know what you're saying.
I'm glad you do, because it felt very hard to say, and I couldn't really quantify it. But yeah.
But also I recognize what Tim's saying, where it's not the most useful thing. Like I guess not many people open the website thinking, oh, I wonder what sub-projects are available here. Like they open it thinking, how can I secure my Nginx ingress?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. That is a very good point.
And also, I think the way that these projects are kind of arbitrary, in my opinion. Like a lot of these projects could be just part of the core cert-manager, but weren't because they weren't part of the initial development. And others could have been split out of cert-manager, I think, like the core of cert-manager. So I kind of feel like it's arbitrary to say like, okay, CSI driver is actually not part of core cert-manager, but like the certificates controller is part of core cert-manager. It really is just another way of exposing these certificates to a user, basically.
What the way I think about it, maybe this is the Venafi side of me though, is like you have ingress like certificates. So we got installation, configuring issuers, requesting certificates, maybe requesting. So I kind of like the main bulk of people are ingress like level resources, and then maybe some more advanced people will start looking at MTLS use cases, which is where some of the other projects or components come in. I don't know if that would be a good structure. So under ingress, you could include like all the tutorials or how-tos on ingress Nginx, traffic, Contour. Like there's a lot of ingress controllers out there, so having something for each of them, even if it's not huge, might be quite nice. But
So you would organize the website more based on the different levels of understanding, or like the different expert levels?
yes, you could say it that way. I'm just trying to think like what the people are going to come and do with cert-manager. They've probably got some web app in Kubernetes that, well, they start out with a web app in Kubernetes that needs to be secured. So the quickest, easiest way is to integrate it with your ingress controller and do it that way. So that, but there's lots of different ingress controllers that can be done with, and then maybe later on they'll be like, oh, actually I want mesh now. So and there's two parts when you do mesh, right? There's two different parts to the certificate, right? You've got the MTLS use case, which usually the mesh does for you, but you might want to do with cert-manager and Istio CSR, or you might want to do with natively with CSR driver. So there's like two tools that could provide different tutorials, I'd say, but you've still got the ingress certificate side. So you're kind of like you've sorted the ingress. It's just Istio rather than ingress Nginx. Now you've got MTLS on, so it's like the next level down of taking off like fully certified certificates across the whole chain of the request is where I'm thinking of. So you do up to ingress, and you do the MTLS, and then maybe you're really want to get down to, and you want to just do MTLS on the pod itself, and like that's like CSI driver and that sort of thing. I don't know if that's a good way. It's just the way I tend to think about simple to hard.
Would
more
it not
complex.
be confusing, for example, in case you need like certificates to communicate between two pods, for example, and you go to a cert-manager website and suddenly it starts talking about like ingress certificates. You're like, well, maybe that's what I need. Let's try to figure out, and read all this stuff, and then you say, well, maybe it doesn't really fit my use case. But actually what this person should have done is this person should have gone to the projects menu here, and then selected CSI driver, and then figured out what a CSI driver is, and do it that way, right?
Maybe we take what Ash said with the tutorial section and apply it to the project section. It's like you have some use cases, and the projects are tagged to those use cases, and like so you read a use case that you want to, like, I just want certificates in pods to do native MTLS, in which case you would direct them to, right, okay, well, either here's a tutorial, or you'll want to use this product with this product, like cert-manager plus CSI driver, for example, if there isn't a dedicated tutorial for that.
Yeah. I feel like what you're describing is more about like how to index the website, maybe less about how to organize it primarily. If you look at a website as a database, you would have like an initial layout, and then you would have like an index depending on how you want to look at all the data on the website. So one of the indexes would be like, what's my expert level? Maybe another index would be like, what cloud provider am I using? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, looking at CSI driver there, like the first two sections of that page are why you would use it and why would you not use it. So that kind of feels like, what we want to do is, that's kind of like the use case, or the use cases you would and wouldn't use it for. And like, feels like we want people to land on this page knowing that they want to use it. Therefore, just get to the meat of install, usage, whatever, get you up and running. Maybe the why and why not. Do we have that with other things? If you're going to SQL CSR?
This is very new. This is merged like yesterday, I think.
I was thinking I hadn't seen this before.
Like,
so what you're saying? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say it's generally been a problem for our sub projects that, like, you open it and it's like it says something like CSI driver is a container storage interface, and most people look at that sentence and get absolutely no insight into what it is. Right? It's like, even if you know what CSI is, you don't necessarily know why you need a thing called CSI driver that's in the cert-manager project. And like, this is my very blunt initial attempt to sort of say, like, to give people a reason to at least evaluate the thing, because most people, I imagine, even if they got to this page, which they wouldn't, they wouldn't come away knowing what it actually does. We often our documentation explains the how without explaining the why.
Mm-hmm. I think the section is very good, but I'm wondering, Peter, what you're saying is that maybe we should move it to like another page and have like it all combined with all the other why, like kind of a decision tree type of thing to determine what to use.
Yes, maybe like trying to like separate the concerns of, like, if you actually go to the CSI driver docs, it's not because you're like, oh, what's this? I have no idea. It's kind of like you already know that you need it for something, as in, so that's it, in that world, that information kind of makes more sense to already be digested somewhere. I'm not sure what the right approaches. Having said that, it's nice and easy to go to cert-manager projects. What's the tool I'm looking at as a person who, might reference it fairly often and go to the thing that I know I'm working on and go click. So it is kind of nice the way it is to some degree. So yeah, I'm not sure I'm being helpful, but
I recognize what you're saying for sure. Like I've recently been playing around with CSI driver, and that's because I want to test installing and using it. So I've come into this page a lot, but that's because I know that that's what I want to use. Like I'm coming at it from a very different angle.
Yeah, I think we probably need, like you said earlier, Ash, like a couple of iterations on this whole thing, on the whole website, and kind of learn as we're changing things, I guess.
Yeah.
Figure out what works best. But for that, we need to put in more time, I guess, more effort.
For sure. Like, it's going to be hard to measure this because none of us want to have intrusive tracking, I'm sure, and none of us want to have the expertise, as far as I'm aware, of measuring like website metrics in that way. So a lot of this is going to be like vibes, but I think experimentation is in order.
But I think we have some Google analysis, or what's called Google Analytics.
I'm not sure if that's even still in or not. It probably is, but I don't know. Even then, I don't know how to access it.
I think there's this CLO monitor thing, which gives you your open source project a score. I think it's like a CNCF thing. One of the items on here is like analytics, yeah. So data text analytics on our website. So we must have it somewhere. We're using the best practices, but we don't know where it is. We have it. Not sure why or where.
Maybe the other angle to look at this is how easy is it for people to contribute to the website? Just on the theme of having more people engage and being part of the community, and updating docs is like a really helpful way to be part of the community, I guess. I mean, it's relatively easy from the website GitHub to know how to do it relatively, I think. I just wonder if there's any. Would you classify certain pages as these are core pages and the content has to be right in installation and configuration and requests and certificates, but maybe some of the other articles it can be a little bit less strict in some of the sections.
Yeah, it's fair to say.
Just so I can, when I submit a tutorial and it's not quite right, I can go, that's all right. The barrier was a little bit lower there. No, but it's nice to know, as someone who tries to write a lot of stuff, I find that it's last 10% or whatever it takes considerably longer and can often put you off. So just having a slightly lower bar sometimes is an easier way to start.
Yeah, I think this is the third time I'm saying it. I'm boring myself by saying it, but we should be relaxed about this. We should try stuff. It can't hurt. The worst that happens is we do a git revert and everything's still fine.
Well, here's an idea. Tim, you have an idea about structure in your head. What if you just made a PR and we got staging and compared the two things side by side and just went, oh, this is good, this is bad, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. And that means doing the work to see the thing, but I think that's the only way really to know if it's the right change. Unless you already have, sorry.
Yeah, I already have some PRs, so
Oh, we should have started with the link.
I think this was how I was thinking the items in the requesting certificates section could be named. But I haven't looked at the other sections yet. I think Richard did that in the past, so I'll actually also refer to his PR.
Clever top level menu layout.
This is like a very radical change. There are no items left in the top level menu here, but kind of looks good, I think. So you have basically most of it is moved to reference, actually. But also these items were renamed, and yeah, that's it basically.
Configuring issuers, okay, yeah. Okay, I will try and link those in the docs then.
But this is the thing I was talking about in terms of the projects. Like I would like to move the projects, for example, Istio-CSR into this section, and CSI driver also into this section. So it's like, oh, these are all the different methods, including service mesh and CSI driver. Then you just click on that. And then it's clear, like, okay, this is a method to request certificates. At least that part is clear.
Oh. Yeah.
These two I would still like. These two I would still like to move out of this section. So that please ignore those two. Yeah, this like request certificates through cert-manager certificate resource, certificates request resource, Kubernetes ingress resource, Kubernetes gateway resource, Kubernetes certificate signing request resource, through Istio or through the CSI driver.
What about a managing certificates section? So you got configuring issuers, requesting certificates, and then managing, because that kind of covers observability, putting controls in place. So that maybe fits those headings a bit better. Maybe not perfectly, but
Oh, so you would put like policy in the same thing as Prometheus. Managing certificates.
I think if you've got past configuring your issuer and requesting certificates and you're still looking at stuff, there's a good reason for it. So it's either you want to monitor it or you want to put some controls in place to stop other people requesting just anything or make their lives easier. Like, is that managing certificates? It's back to that like operations section maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I guess I was initially thinking to have like a separate thing for policy. But I think what you're saying is to have operations and policy in the same section.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean, gotcha. Because if metrics and then there was something else, wasn't there, to fit in there?
Oh yeah, so you have metrics and then backup and restore, and
Yes.
syncing secrets across namespaces.
Yeah, which is different to policy. Yeah. Although I wouldn't want to undo Richard's good work where he's managed to get all the headings down to like a nice sort of small list, which looks good, and then to add more sections to that. So
yeah, that's indeed. It's hard to keep this to a minimal. Kind of want to keep adding stuff.
yeah. We want to clean it up, but we also want to add like 7 sections. No, I'm gonna try. I'll try and take a look at those things maybe at those suggestions already next week and see what feels better. Yeah, naming things is difficult, right? That's one of the hardest things. So
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. I think the index idea is also very good. Like, I would like to spend some time trying to explore that, like providing multiple indexes to the same content, and through some pages that just refer, like have a bunch of links to the rest of the website. And then link that to like another kind of way of indexing. For example, the different levels of expertise. Right, so yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I'll stop the recording.